So next up, we've got an exciting panel. So first off, I'd like to introduce Sarah Agboola. She's the founder and CEO of mtime, a business dedicated to providing a support network for busy parents by matching them with trained and vetted family assistants. Sarah's also a member of the Australia Post Stakeholder Council and was the 2017 Australian Sherpa for the G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance and an honorary of Smart Company's 30 Under 30. So welcome, Sarah. I should know that off by heart because I did that same introduction only 2 weeks ago. And Simon Cox began his career at 21 with a magazine publication in Queensland. By 24, he started Yarra Linen, a local linen hire and laundry service within the Yarra Valley. And through a passion to please clients, great service, and a lot of hard work, Yarra Linen now services over 150 clients with a team of 12 staff. So be excited to hear how your COVID pivot's gone too, Simon. Welcome. And last but not least, Prenny Abraham. Prenny designs tech products by day and develops businesses at night. After trialling, running and existing several businesses, he spent 2.5 years working at a startup and at Autodesk. He also owns and runs HQ Workspace, which is a co-working space just outside Melbourne CBD, just up near Treasury, Parliament. So very close to the policymakers. So I might start with you, Sarah. So tell us your story of becoming an entrepreneur and what have been 3 key milestones along the journey?
Yeah, well, I guess my entrepreneurship journey, it's almost cliched to say, but it really started by accident because I didn't realize what I was doing was entrepreneurship until it was pointed out by people external to me. Because I always liked having projects and creating groups. Like whenever I kind of saw a problem for things, I just want to create it myself. And I think a big part of that came from, because I grew up in Wagga, so I'd often go online, see heaps of things happening in the city and then get frustrated that we didn't have the same access. So I just start my own thing. And so then it was when in doing that, I started a page for young people and just showing heaps of different events that were taking place. And then it was actually someone from Melbourne Uni who saw the page, got in contact with me and introduced me to the world of entrepreneurship by suggesting that I go to one of their startup boot camps. And so I went along to that and I had a bit of an understanding about startups because when I was at uni, I'd worked for one just as a part-time job. So I had a pretty shallow understanding, but was familiar with a bit of it. And so it was really going to that event. And that was actually how we initially had the idea for mtime, because it was really going there. Everyone was pitching ideas and then you worked on something for a couple of days. And it was through that experience that it kind of occurred to me like, oh, this could actually be a career path, really? I could just keep coming up with different ideas and see them through. And that really excited me. And pretty much through that event, I remember at the time I was actually set to do my JD and go and do law because I wanted something that would be really linear and clear. But I got that bug from just going to that event, and which is why I'm always so in favor of different events, initiatives that show people that you can make it a career path and that there are different ways that you can turn your hobbies and interests into real jobs. So yeah, that was it for me, really kind of by chance.
Fantastic. And Prenny, what about yourself? What's been your journey to entrepreneurship and some of the milestones along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I started out when I graduated from university. It was the GFC at the time, and there were no real jobs out there for me. And so I, after searching high and low for a job, decided to take a stab at a business. It was an opportunity that sort of presented itself, and at that age, I guess you're sort of unencumbered. You don't have any real responsibilities, no big debts behind you, and so I figured, hey, if I'm going to do it, now's the time to start. And so that was a good 3 or 4 year journey, and so far one of the most memorable. But post that I started when I was living in South Africa. And then after that, moved to Australia and started looking at different options here as well. And somewhere along the way, moving to Australia, like Victoria said, was it's difficult moving to a whole new country and you're resetting your network. You know absolutely no one. You don't know, where who to reach out to, where to begin. And at that point in time, I was working just on a call it a side hustle of a side hustle. I had a brand of beard grooming products, and I met one of Linda's associates, Shona, and she said, "Hey, you should take this product." Sorry, I was at a weekend market, and she came to buy one of the products, and she's like, "You should take this to apply for a position in getting down to business." And that accelerator program single-handedly opened up 80% of my network of what I have today. And Warwick, you and I were talking about people that we knew in common before this. And the power of networks in business is massive. And so that would definitely be one of my key moments in Australia. Meeting Shauna and meeting Linda and the whole getting down to business program, and what that unlocked was massive, both from a network point of view and from tangible learnings that you can take away and apply to businesses. The frameworks that they introduced to people was that was awesome. So but yeah, currently I'm working full-time in a company called Autodesk, but I run a co-working space in the city as well on the side. And as you can imagine, during the COVID period, running a co-working space is less than ideal. So here we are. Yeah.
Look, Prenny, I've heard great things from a couple of your tenants. Funnily enough, we didn't know each other until today. So
Awesome.
Being good to your customers pays dividends, and they'll come back. Don't worry.
Awesome.
And sort of last but not least, Simon, I'm assuming that running Yarra Valley Linen, you've had the fortunate position to hang out in the beautiful Yarra Valley whilst the rest of us have been in these city concrete jungles. How's that been, and what's been your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, hi Warwick and everyone else. Yeah, look, it is beautiful out here. Very fortunate. Unfortunate that we actually did get included in the metro lockdown area, although we are regional. So yeah, we've pretty much ran at 3 or 4% capacity for the past 7 months, which has been pretty hard. Fortunate side is I do live up at King Lake, so I was regional, so I had a little bit of freedom at home and some land there, so that was nice. I guess the story behind my journey, my father was a bit of an entrepreneur, starting his own business many years ago. So as a young kid, I always wanted to, I guess, follow in his footsteps. I looked into starting my own business probably in my late teenage years. Looked into importing various products from like shampoos and things like that through to handheld breathalyzers. None of them ever really got anywhere. And then we purchased a tourist restaurant guide in Brisbane and Sunshine Coast after the Black Saturday bushfires that affected us. And I ran that predominantly myself with my father. And then that led into Yarra Linen, that we started from scratch. And yeah, I now run it myself. My father's retired. And yeah, this is where we are now.
Good stuff. So I might just continue with you, Simon, while we've got you. I mean, you know, your father sort of was your idol in terms of following in his footsteps, but do you think you would have run a business one day? And is it the same business idea you started with? Doesn't sound like it was, albeit my parents actually bought one of those products you mentioned, the handheld, you know, alcohol tester.
Yeah.
And if not, why did you change direction?
Yeah, I think I probably still would have gone down the same path. I'm quite a independent person. I enjoy controlling my own time and my own destiny. So I think I would have, probably gone down the same path regardless. I guess I didn't go ahead with the other opportunities. I just found the market very competitive. And I guess at that age, I probably lacked a little bit of, maybe a little bit of motivation at that age. And I guess just the know of how to get going, who to lean on, extra support. I guess things that getting down to business that supported us as we got going. I didn't have that opportunity back then.
Good one. Thanks, Simon. And Sarah, I mean, it sounds like you fell into entrepreneurship. You're just excited by projects. The next thing, you are an entrepreneur. What sort of helped you down that path? I know that you did, you know, have done the Wade Institute, I think Young Social Pioneers. Did those types of entrepreneurial programs support you in helping identify to be an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because for me, I really thought I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I was very sure on that. And it's been interesting of having reflections of people in those programs. They don't think I would have lasted. I don't know, because I guess I've changed so much since then. But it was really, I think both Prenny and Victoria were talking about it earlier about just having access to networks. Like all of my networks really came from initially the Wade Institute at Melbourne Uni. And that's pretty much why I'm here today. Like I was able to get funded personally just to be able to even afford to start something through scholarships and the like, and then being able to have continued support through different institutions like even Australia Post funding. That for me is the whole reason why I've been able to keep going and continuing to have those mentoring relationships as well, especially because I hadn't worked prior to starting anything. My start was entrepreneurship as a career path. So having access to so many networks and people willing to help, and that's one of the things I really admire about the small business community, is that there really is a pay it forward kind of mentality. So I don't think that without doing any of those programs, I wouldn't have had the inclination, and I wouldn't have known that it was possible as something to do.
Thanks, Sarah. And Prenny, I mean, you mentioned your CV didn't get opened, and so you decided that path. I mean, what were some of the other factors in you becoming an entrepreneur?
I think the fact that my father was a businessman as well really did play a part in me having that as an inclination. But when you're young, you have a lot of time, but not a lot of money or experience, and so using that time to build entrepreneurial sort of experience was something that I really wanted at the time. Even at that age, I knew that it wasn't going, that freedom of time was not something that was going to last forever. And so it was just a desire to do something worthwhile during that period of my life that drove me to it. That and also being able to starting a business for the sake of starting a business is something that I've always told myself that I would not do. But if there is an opportunity and you do your homework and your due diligence, there's always going to be a factor of risk. But taking that risk is and not being so risk averse was something that I was always inclined to.
Yeah, and Prenny, might sort of stay with you again. I mean, you've mentioned that the frameworks within getting down to business were invaluable.
Yeah.
And you've also tapped into the fellow entrepreneurs. Um, what else has supported you in these entrepreneur programs like getting down to business?
So yeah, those frameworks are massive. In the early days, for me, I was doing things that I thought felt right, or it sort of feels like this is what we should be doing at this point in time. The frameworks make it repeatable, and so you're able to learn things that you can do again and again from one business to another. Having access to not only business associates or people that might be able to help you from a direct business to business point of view, but having access to mentors and people within the community is huge. And so, like, anytime I have an issue, I know there's a group of people I can call up or lean on to deal with, to help me deal with or process difficult times. Yeah, there's a lot that comes from having a network, apart from just direct business. There's a lot of growth in it, both personal and career growth. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Prenny. And Simon, I mean, your old man had already been a successful entrepreneur. What made you sort of think about getting down to business as a pathway, and what did you get out of it?
I guess I thought of it as a good support and information avenue to help, I guess, give us knowledge to move forward. The networking and the information they provided was I guess priceless, given that there's not much else around to kind of guide us in the right direction.
Yeah, fair play. I think that's really important. Just that mentoring as well, right?
Yeah.
And Sarah, I know you did the Wade one, and I know we've hung out at FYA a few times. Did you do the Young Social Pioneers one as well?
No, I didn't actually, but I did do a program at the University of New South Wales as well. And so they gave grant funding and mentorship for about 3 months.
Okay. And so what sort of enticed you into those programs? And second to that, what did you gain from it?
I think it was for doing the program at Wade, it was really wanting kind of that structure and kind of to ease into the process of entrepreneurship. Because yes, I had done different projects, but they were definitely more for fun. Like they weren't something that were designed to make money or an income. And so actually seeing how to apply those skills to create something that's actually really solving a problem for people and that could actually be a viable business. And so it was really a good entry point to learning those base skills. And my thinking at the time was, well, the worst case is that I'll still come out with networks and then a degree as well. And actually, I think a lot of people in my cohort didn't start a business straight away. A lot of people went off and did consulting or just worked in corporate and then have since gone on to start different things at different times. So that was something that I saw for myself. Then other programs I did, like the one at UNSW, it was really, again, having access to more mentors and then also funding, because I think that's one of the big barriers, especially for young people. Because on the one hand, yes, you don't have any responsibilities, you usually don't have as many big debts or anything like that, but you also have limited access to capital, both social and economic. So it can be a lot harder to actually get started. So it was really getting access to both of those things, which can often be out of reach, was the real impetus for me wanting to get involved.
Yeah, great, Sarah. I might just ask sort of these two questions at once, because they both relate to, advice towards policymakers, right? So, obviously we used to have a startup minister. We've now got a minister for innovation, jobs and economic recovery. And then second to that, all of the Victorian local councils have now got new councillors and are now setting up new corporate plans around COVID recovery. So I think there's an opportunity that we can get stronger messages into policymakers. To that point, I want to ask these two questions. What would be the impact of more young entrepreneurs under 25 starting businesses in Victoria? And what advice would you give to politicians and policymakers about how they can enable young entrepreneurs to start their own business? I might hand it to you, Prenny.
Awesome. If you look at how companies from the States and Silicon Valley sort of have propagated and proliferated around the world, there's a sense of innovation that just we're using it right now. We use Google for emails. We're on Zoom, and if you look at how COVID has affected the entire world in a once in a century pandemic, the only reason that we are not in a state that's worse than the Great Depression is because we have adapted to technology in such a way that it allows us to function without having to have face-to-face interactions. Technology has enabled that, but that technology it's all started off startups as well. These startups would have started, say 10 to 20 years ago, but at some point they were just startups and ideas in a garage. A lot of products are coming out of China now as well. China's putting a huge emphasis on their startup scene, and they understand the value in that. Australia definitely needs to nurture its young and up and coming, potentially world-changing entrepreneurs, and so we definitely need to give them avenues of support and opportunities to try out ideas. Not every idea is gonna succeed. For every entrepreneur that makes it big and on the global stage, there's 100 that haven't. It's just an inherent risk that comes with startups and entrepreneurship. But there is a large onus on the government providing a conducive environment for that. And if it's not the government who wants to directly sort of nurture the youth that are interested in entrepreneurship, then enable organizations and initiatives such as getting down to business to be able to do that. There are people who have passion and have made it their life's work to support youth and to support young entrepreneurs. Certainly keeping that funded is vital to the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. It's important. Can I ask Warwick for you to repeat the second half of that question?
So it was around what advice would you give policymakers in how they can enable young entrepreneurs to start their own business? So I'll partially come up with an idea and answer it for you, Prenny, and you can extend upon that. But my thought process is that the City of Melbourne should support a certain co-working space up near Treasury buildings to house youth entrepreneurs for 3 months for free to kickstart their careers.
Absolutely. that's
one idea.
A great starting point. But yeah, I mean, coming back to the point of, if the government can have a department that does it directly themselves, but if they're not interested in that, there are organizations around the country that do want to do that form of outreach and mentorship and incubation. Fund them. So yeah.
Fantastic.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, look, definitely. And Simon, your thoughts around what sort of policies or what things can these policymakers do in terms of supporting youth entrepreneurs?
I guess some more education and networking opportunities, probably marketed and readily available to young entrepreneurs, just like getting down to business. I think making that easier for people to access would increase their confidence and their ability to achieve. And I guess one of the big hurdles, and I think Prenny touched on it earlier, was we have lots of time as a young entrepreneur. However, we lack probably support and funding. So the second one would be funding, either tax breaks, assistance in setup costs, assistance in getting employers on board when you're starting your business. Things like that, I think would assist quite substantially.
Fantastic. Thanks, Simon. And Sarah, your thoughts on what policymakers can do to help young entrepreneurs and their life, make their lives easier and grow their businesses?
Yeah, well, I really echo what Simon said about more support and funding to make it more accessible for people. And I remember, I'm not sure if this program still exists, but there used to be, I think it was called the NICE program, where as a pathway for employment, you were still able to, you could actually get Centrelink funding for about 6 months to help you start a business. But one of the limitations of that was that if you had a side hustle or anything like that, then you were disqualified. You had to have been unemployed for a while and then also started within the program. I think opening it up and partnering with other existing programs like Getting Down to Business, or whether it's with universities, so that you know people are working on something, but also still fund them for that 6-month period, because there's so many people who I know who would love to start something and maybe they're going to do it while working or while they're doing or while they're studying or something like that. But enabling more access and opportunity and support, even if it's not in the business, but for you to just maintain your living as well, I think would be really amazing.
Right. And Phil's mentioned as well, provide community managed scholarships and access to conferences and networks. Yeah, look, I mean, I think the more we can, focus on young entrepreneurship as an infrastructure in policy making, the better, because like we've heard today, it's all about creating jobs, and not just your jobs, but those folk that you employ and the folks on your platform, Sarah. That's great. Is there any other questions from the chat? I'm just sort of scrolling through. Encouraging accessible environments for incubation and prototyping. Fantastic. Well, look, I know we're heading into the collaboration part of the day, so I'll handball it back to you, Frank. But yeah, look, thank you, Sarah, Prenny, and Simon. Look, just well done on coming out the other end, or at least we're part of the way there in this journey, and it's great to hear your businesses are going well, and I'm sure that we'll be have some more customers just from this group around us today.